Hey, it's Lynn Louise,
And Ankara Rose.
and this is the Cosmic Valkyrie Podcast. And Ankara Rose and I were just talking about podcasting and why you haven't started podcasting. And y'all, so I recently, for about 6 months, I was doing my podcast. If you're on YouTube, you saw me, and then I would edit it. And I know that a lot of people like seeing a face, but I'm going to be honest, like how many people actually look at YouTube and watch? They more listen, don't you think?
I think so.
And it just really felt unaligned as it just it wasn't as fun for me. It wasn't as entertaining for me to sit and watch myself do a podcast. And I know there's different ways of doing it, but it just was kind of boring and I never felt like I could tap in fully.
Mhm.
And to me, at this point in my business, I like our conversations more than just me like talking into YouTube. It just is boring. You don't get any feedback,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so we have talked about doing this series together, but I'm like, hell, I'd rather have you on here more times than not.
Yeah. And I'm really happy to. And one of the things we were talking about is every time I have sat down and be like, okay, I'm going to do this podcast, the thought of doing it alone, it just didn't feel right. I do sometimes, if you're familiar with human design, I am a generator, right? And so, yes, there's lots to respond to, but when I have a human that I can bounce off of, I really feel like that energy can build. And just like you said, it's like talking into a vacuum when we're just talking.
Tell
There's
me
value
this.
there. There's value there, but this feels better for me.
I get you too. So when I think about, I listen to podcasts,
Same.
and honestly, the podcast that I really enjoy, it's two people having a conversation. And one of the E10Xers one time said that she doesn't like her learning, she doesn't like watching training or anything because she feels like she's being fire hosed. And that really resonated with me because there are many podcasts that I just can't listen to anymore because it's just somebody talking at me. And I'm
Hmm.
like, ooh, I would rather have the conversation. So the ones that I really enjoy now are people being interviewed or having a conversation. And I think that I wonder if that has something to do with the collective energy that we have moved into now.
Mm.
Because now it's about the Age of Aquarius is about community, right? It's about gathering, but it's also about your own uniqueness. So I'm like, oh, I wonder if it has something because I just can't listen to just somebody talking. And that's why my solo shows are so short. They're like 15 minutes or less because I'm like, oh, that's boring. Right?
I Yeah,
Go
I
on.
just I have to jump in here, right? It's like we know that when it comes to feeling connected to someone that you're learning from, right? The lowest level would be reading their words, the second level would be hearing their voice, and the highest level of connection is through video. However, there's an issue with that in today's times because we know through science that staring at a screen is highly dysregulating. I am a highly sensitive person, right? And many of my clients are, and even those who aren't. We aren't aware of really the like what's happening in our brain when we are staring at a screen all day. And so I've also been taking, for myself, cutting my screen time down, and that includes like I don't watch YouTube videos. I might play a YouTube video and stick my phone in my pocket and go for my walk, but to me, I value my my regulation, and so I can't stare at a screen that long.
Yeah, I don't ever watch
Yeah.
videos. Like I will listen to them. I agree that like watching a screen, one thing that I've talked about in my coaching is that like 15 to 20 minutes and then go have your um rapid, what is it called?
Mhm.
I think it's like it's not, it doesn't have anything to do with your eyes or sleep, but you like you're downloading all the information that you just took in. So
Yeah.
like take a break, go for a walk, let your brain physically process what you just learned, and then you can always go back to something. If somebody's sitting at a computer all day and
Mhm.
then they have a lesson or a life coaching to do later on that day, that's a lot of screen time.
It's a lot, and it's like, and again, it's like the research on education also confirms that, right? It's like 20 minutes is the max that we can take in before we start to tune out. So I use this in my when I am teaching, right? When I'm leading my group programs, I try not to have anything go on for more than 20 minutes. And if it does, we take a pause, we do a stretch break. Everybody knows me. We always do a stretch break. Go take a sip of water, get up, let's pause, use the bathroom, grab a snack, come back. Because I know that if I really care about people integrating what we're talking about, I have to set them up for that.
Okay, so can we talk about that? Because I
Yeah.
don't do that.
Mm.
So on in E10X on the hour-long calls, because my first question was going to be screen time and all that, does that pertain to Zoom as well? So obviously it does,
It
right?
does.
Because that is screen time.
Hmm.
And I have been on calls with coaches that were so amazing and captivating, but I'm going to tell you, I rarely watched them. I always was listening to them.
There you
I
go.
never was like in it. I would, or like if I was driving or something, I'd be listening to it.
Hmm.
Sometimes I would be there live and watching them. But since you're in E10X, I would love your feedback with this. Do you think that like me doing the coaching for the first 20 minutes, then us all taking a break and going to the bathroom, getting a glass of water, anything like that, and then coming back and doing the Q&A would be more beneficial?
So I think it doesn't have to be a full break, but it can just be okay, we're going to shift gears, guys. Give yourself a little stretch, take a sip of water, right? We just want
Oh,
something to
okay.
break it up. And the other thing I want to say, right? Like sometimes you only have an hour,
Yeah.
right? And so if you only have an hour, what you can do as leader is you just make sure at the beginning of the call, you remind people, we're here for an hour, we're going to be focused, but take care of your body. If you need to step away from the screen or look away from the screen, then do that. Give people permission. I mean, they don't need the permission, but it helps when it's explicitly said, like, you get to take care of yourself here. And then I like to provide those little reminders.
Okay. I love that because you have seen how engaging the
Yeah.
community is, right?
Yeah.
So, like, to take a break could interrupt the
It can.
frequency and the flow and the connection
Oh, yeah.
because you can feel like we're on that call and all of us are like, "Wow," our brains are like all connected. And here's the thing, I know that we have talked about this a little, but so you know that I work with a really powerful like Baba Lao, and he's um on this earth to help with the polar magnetic shifts of Pachamama. And then he has a community of us that he that are apprentices with him. And then like he's described his version and then I've used my own words.
Mhm.
So to describe what each of us has in our role, and I share this with an E10X too sometimes, but I always envision, so Pachamama has her chakra system, and then we all have our own independent chakra system, and then there's a chakra system of the universe and the galaxies and all it's all just chakra systems.
Mhm.
And I imagine it as webs, like ley lines and webs.
Mhm.
And so on our calls, I have this like visual of the ley lines that are connecting each person and the systems that are connecting each person. And then that person has their own web, right? That is in their own community. And we are all like so connected in this like amazing consciousness. And to be able to sit in a group of women that is very aware and very connected in that way is just like,
Mhm.
So when I have that environment and that web activated, for me to intentionally create a movement or, away from the screen or whatever,
Mhm.
could my perception could be like disoriented. So it's nice to be able to just go, oh, okay. Who needs a drink of water? Go ahead and take a drink of water before we move into, or cacao or whatever, before we move into the next section.
100%. It does not have to be something where, again, it's a hard, fast rule. When you are mindfully and consciously and impeccably holding the container the way that you do, the way that I do, we don't always want to break the energy that's there. Now, one of the things that I teach my students, I mean, it's not the content that they come to me for, but I weave this into the way that I lead is I encourage people, like, let's say we go into a meditation, right? We're going through a process and we come out, I talk them through. Now hold that energy, hold that frequency when you come back, right? Because we need to build the muscle. I'm sure, and I know, I think I've heard you talk about this with hypnosis too, right? Like sometimes you're in hypnosis, you're doing a process and the cat jumps on your lap and it startles you. You don't have to start back from the beginning. You learn how to hold that vibration, that state of mind through that transition. So when you're working with people long enough and you're bringing that in as part of your conscious work, you might be able to get to the point where like you're in it really deep and you can take a break. But I would say you want to work up to that point. I
And
think
you
that's
only like you said, like I try to only have my 10Xers on there for an hour
yeah.
because it is quite energetic and it can get exhausting and you want them to have a productive day, right? Like you don't want them to feel drained. And I think it's really important to understand the ability to protect your energy in any environment.
Oh yeah.
Like that's so important. And
It's
I think that's just part of the screen presence too,
Mhm.
right? Protecting your own personal frequency when you're viewing your phone or sitting in a
Oof.
Zoom meeting.
100%. It's so true. And to I'm forgetting the phrase, but like, yes, you do a beautiful job of this. What is the phrase? Can't remember it. You do a really beautiful job at holding time. And I would say in our leadership, this is a place where I see a lot of coaches fail.
Ugh.
Is they say the call is going to be an hour, maybe bump it out an hour and 15. Sometimes that happens, but consistently, it's an hour long call and the call goes 2 hours, right? That's a problem. That's a boundary issue. I have led calls that are 2 hours. I would never do that without putting a break in and having some radically different things on each side of that break. Or like really shifting gears between those two sides. But if your calls are going over 2.5 hours, you need to check your boundaries because that's not good for you. It's not good for them. Even if you think it is, my friends, it's not.
I love this because I think that that whole thing came from trigger warning. Trigger warning. I'm
Bring it
going to
on.
be snarky here. That whole thing came from bro coaches and their perception of overserving.
Oh, yeah.
Because of women, we overserve all the time. Like that's our default is to overserve and be nurturing and really like overgiving. We've been taught that philosophy all our life. So then men come along and they're like, we're in the coaching industry now and we're going to show you what overserving is. I was on a call one time, a niche call, okay? Like discovering your niche, nailing your niche. And it was a 2 day, first of all, I can fucking do that shit in 20 minutes. Okay. It was a 2 day event. Each day anticipated an hour, 3 hours the first day, 4 hours the second. And I was like, this is ridiculous. It just drained. One, you like by telling me it's going to be an hour and then it's like 3 hours is disrespectful of my time.
100%.
I'm like, I don't have time for that shit. So I felt disrespected. And then it was just draining. And it was not over delivering. It was delivering confusion and overwhelm.
Oh yeah. I mean, this is where it's the whole concept of over delivering is so twisted because people think that I see this all the time where people will they'll sell their program and then they'll like try to bump up the value by including 72 self-paced courses that no one's ever going to do. Like we are in the age of not just the age of information, the age of TMI, too much information. Too much is paralyzing, it's overwhelming, it is not empowering. It's not empowering. Less is more. And I think that sometimes it's overcompensating. It's feeling like they have to prove yourself, so I have to fill up space.
Mm-hmm. My value and my program is not enough. So therefore, the more that I offer, the more they'll be satisfied and find transformation or value within me. They're worried about their performance or their product, and therefore they're trying to make it up with more equals more, right? Like I give you more, therefore you'll value it more.
Right. Or you actually
Whereas,
get more. But they
yeah,
don't. We
they
don't. We
don't.
don't get more. We get fire hosed. We get overwhelmed. Uh, and that's a leadership skill that we have to develop. We have to become discerning with how much we give through the lens of how much can the person or the people in front of me actually take, and not just take in, but take action with.
I agree. When I was in a mastermind, the one that I've talked about before, and she was like, you need to develop a 997 and you need to do this and you need to have this and you need to have all these freebies and blah, 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 blah. And then a 12-month program. And so E10X was a 10-month. I just want you to imagine this. E10X used to be a 12-month mastermind. It was a 10K membership. Okay. And you being in it, you will know how ridiculous. And I tried it for that year and then
Mhm.
for like 6 months and I was like, no more.
Yeah.
And it was self-led. And then I had all these other programs that they had access to for the year. First mistake. E10X should never, ever, ever had been a 12-month membership. It's like so condensed and so packed, and you need that consistent drip to it.
Hmm.
And then what I found is everyone focused on the skill sets, not E10X. So they would do Cash Codex that was teaching strategy instead of focusing on reclaiming their personal power. And so they would get stuck in the same shit of doing. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, so I trash that shit. I
Yeah.
still have the programs and stuff, and here's a solution that I have found that I'm going to do. And so you guys can think about it this way. I sell E10X, boom, that's it. Like I don't really focus on a lot of bonuses. I have one bonus that I offer and for early enrollment because I know that if they get in and they start that like the Beyond Beliefs, then you have time to really implement it before we get rolling.
Mhm.
But that bonus cuts off at a specific time because I know that if you don't start it within that period of time, it's going to be a distraction.
Mhm.
So E10X is it, right? Like this is what I want you to learn. And then about 3/4 of the way through, I'll give people a sneak peek into Cash Codex, financial frequency, all of beyond, they get a sneak peek into Beyond Beliefs, the first recognition around self-hypnosis and stuff. So they know, okay, if I become the alumni, then I get this, and then I get the community again, and then I get to stay in E10X for every live throughout the year, right? So it's not fire hosing them straight out of the gate. Then once they get through the first session, then they can go, oh, okay, and then I can dabble in these other things.
Mhm.
It really is.
Can everyone hear the intentionality of of the way that she has outlined basically the client journey, how that unfolds? There's
Mm.
so much intentionality. And I have to say, right? Or I have to ask you, would you have gotten to this if you had not run it
Oh, fuck
Well,
no.
as a 12-month program.
So when I very first started E10X, I did it so beta. Like the first time I ever ran it, it was like $660 and it was like an 8-week program. And then we got 8 weeks in and I was like, shit, I don't have enough time. I don't have. So then I ran it again. And the next time I ran it as a 10-week program and it was like $1,200 or something. And we got to 10 weeks and I was like, I still don't have enough time. And so by the time I got to, okay, it needs to be 12 weeks, that's solid. It gives me enough time and implementation time and all this. But also it goes longer. You have more time than 12 weeks. Y'all see that now, but I ran it like that for a year and it was doing great. It was doing great. I'm going to be honest. And then it had gotten up to the price that I charge now. And then that's when I got that coach. What did I do? I handed over my personal power.
I hear ya.
And I was like, oh, she knows what she's talking about because she has an online coaching community that's making millions. So she knows what I need to do. And I'm going to be straight up. She put me to work on things that kept me busy instead of growing my community in E10X. So I was like creating these programs and doing all this and having these things that were taking me away from my true desire. And so to answer that question, no, I could not have been where I am today in the enlightenment of I knew at the very beginning what my big picture for E10X was, but I had lost it during that year with her.
Right.
But without that year in that chaos, I could not walk back in and go, oh, that's not it. This is the road, and this is how it grows. And this is how I'm gathering those fellow Valkyries together for this really, I hate using this word, intentional community. That's so not me. That's so not...
But it is a magical community. And I think that I'm glad that you talked about your process because listen, if you're familiar with human design, I am a 3-6 profile and Lynn Louise is a 6-3 profile. 3, that energy of the 3 is all about trial and error. We do not get it right the first time, my friends, but we're also the reminder to you that neither do you. And so our purpose is we try things out and we refine them. That's that 3 line. And the 6 line brings it all together and kind of universalizes it. And the 6 line is all about embodied experience. So if you want to learn how to let yourself get a little bit messy in your process, but have the patience for yourself to refine and really keep going and make it work, you come to her, you come to me, right? This is our expertise.
So, okay. So let's talk about that just for a little bit, because I never knew that about 6-3. So 3 is allowing yourself
experimenter, and the pioneer.
Okay. So I can see that in both of us.
Yeah.
And then the 6 is like embodying it and really teaching people how to close those gaps so they don't have to go through the same shit.
Yeah. The 6 is the mentor or the role model, right? The 6 can't do what the 6 is meant to do if they are not walking their talk. But it's not hard for the 6 because the 6 has lived it. Okay. Right. So each of, it only goes to 1 through 6. I'm sorry if you guys are not familiar with human design. Maybe we'll do an episode explaining this, but the 3, I like to think of it, the 3 is the experimenter or the pioneer, and the 6 is the role model or the mentor. So both of these have embodied experience, except for the 3, we never get to a place where it's finished because we're always testing something new, but not just to test it. We can fall into a pattern of like just throwing spaghetti at the wall. That's not the healthy, evolved, highest expression of a 3. The highest expression of the 3 is to throw shit at the wall, see what sticks, and refine based on that.
Discern.
Discern. Why? Not for us, but so we can go and report, hey guys, here's what works and here's
Girl,
what doesn't.
you were so speaking my language
Yeah,
because
it's you.
I'm
Yeah.
always saying,
Yeah.
like, you fought to be here for this time. Like
Mm-hmm.
everyone that we're talking to, you
Mm-hmm.
fought out of all the souls, out of all the people that could come
Mm.
down here, all the luminous beings. You fought to be here and you are here. And if you're listening to this, then you're driving with this and you're understanding that this is your moment. Because, like, right now in time, I'm saying, not saying you fought to be here 3 years, like 30 years ago or 45 or 60 years ago. You fought to be here for this moment in history,
Yeah.
this one that's happening right now. And so I look at it, and the way that I've embodied that is to know, like, go through all this and understand and know on a core level that my mission in this life is to close gaps for women,
Yeah.
like to really close those gaps, like rapidly, so they're out of this pain and struggle and all those circumstances, so that they can really stand in their personal power and create. And so I need to do that rapidly. And to go back, I realized in that year that I was not doing that rapidly, that it was not the best way to get through it. It needed to be dripped, it needed to be presented in a very intentional way. Now, my question would be, does it make a difference if it's 3-6 or 6-3?
It does a little bit, right? So that first number is it's part of your conscious side. That's based on the date, time, and location that you were born, the exact time and date, right? So it's a little bit easier to relate, usually consciously relate to that first number. So for you, really seeing yourself as that gap closer, as the person, it's like, I've lived it and I can help you do that. For me, I do relate more to that 3 energy, which is like, we're going to get messy, guys. Let's play. Let's figure it out together. Right. But the second number has to do with your design side. It's 88 days before you were born. It's, actually has a little bit more to do with I would say, like the subconscious, the body, maybe even your lineage. So it's playing out a little bit behind the surface. But I will say this, the 6th line spends the first 30 years, is it 20, 30 years of their lives as a 3, not a 6. So for a 6-3 and a 3-6, the first 30 years, we are just trying everything and we get ourselves into trouble. Like we learn where the wall is by bumping into it. That's like literally how we do it, right? So we, again, like, yes, this is our magic that we bring. However, we're also the reminder, because not every profile feels comfortable testing things. If you've got a 1 there, or if you have a 5 there, you might feel super uncomfortable with things that are not like in a solid foundation, and trying things out can feel threatening to you. But we are the reminder that your mastery comes over time. It comes through practice and it comes through refinement, whether your mastery requires, a deep foundational knowledge, or it's something that's really natural to you, or it happens in interaction with others. It doesn't matter. All of us develop over time. We both happen to embody,
Yeah.
we bring that through our embodiment.
Yeah, I didn't get to where I am today
Right.
overnight.
No,
And
no,
I
me
think
neither.
about the amount of time. So I do know, like, for us, we have 3 phases.
Hmm.
The 6th line has 3 phases,
Hmm.
maybe.
Hmm.
And I'm in my final phase, which is really teaching. And the
Hmm.
crazy thing is that when I moved into that, it was like, boom, this is what I'm here for. This, and honestly, like, if I look back over time, I know, like, during each phase, like, things that happened that were in alignment. But when I moved into it, I can very much see that's when my hypnosis practice, like, took off. That's when I really stood and was like, oh, all this pain and struggle and all this shit, and finding out how to get out of it and how to really, like, become the Valkyrie that I am. It was all for this. It was all to teach other. Like, I always was a
Yes.
humanitarian, but was like, oh, this is a no-brainer. I'm supposed to show this to women.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you say that, right? Because I think for me, I valued service, but I was still, I felt like I was spent a long time really just testing things out for myself. And maybe it's that three line being first instead of that six line. Um, it took a level of maturity and it took time. And maybe it did. You know, I'm thinking back, I had kids when I was 30. So nothing, that my whole life became about them for a while. But like, you know, coming back into business and entrepreneurship after that, like early phase with my kids, I really did step into this is not for me. This is, I'm here to serve with
I
this.
love this. And back in 2023, when Pluto was like dancing around back and forth out of Aquarius energy, because I'm an Aquarius, but there was a time one morning when I woke up and I kid you not, my gut it was so painful and it felt like I was having massive, like, yeah, if I hadn't known, I would have been like, should I go to the emergency room? It
Mm.
was like so incredibly painful and swollen out past my chest. It was crazy.
Wow.
And I have a friend in Perth that's really into human design and we're really close. I haven't talked to her in a long time, but she was like, tell me about it. And I was like, this, and this is going on, and this is where it is. And she's like, and I'm like, it feels like it's something outside of this human experience. And she's like, that's your ancestral line, da 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 da, right?
Hmm.
And it was like, boom, I know exactly what you're talking about. And in that moment, like she told me some things to do physically to relieve the pain, but we were also able, like, I know, y'all, I don't know if you know this about me by now, but if somebody ever reads my cards, like Egyptian, like my playing card, my chart, anything, if you ever, and my human design chart, it all goes back to financial security. Every
Mm.
single time somebody's like, you're here to help people with financial
I
security
just got the
because
chills, Louise.
because it was such a huge thing for me. But
Mm.
that day, I knew that it wasn't just like I had to go through this huge shamanic death around financial stuff in that day. Every time I get tapped in, I start crying. In that moment, that there was deep work that needed to be done for me to heal ancestral, talking like not just like lines of generations, but ancestral depths of poverty and fear around money,
Mm.
that I had to do that work then, that day, in order to be able to embody and move forward to teach other women how to move past that.
Mm.
It was like,
You
I was
had to
like,
do, you
human
had to go through it
design
yourself.
rocks.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
That day I was like, I love human design. Tell me more.
I do too. I do too.
And
Yeah.
the beautiful thing is that, and I want to really drive this into my listeners. Human design, I did not learn how to read human design. I can identify certain things on a chart. My friend really helped me like move through that. I don't know shit about gates or
Mhm.
keys, the
Mhm.
gene keys, anything like
Mhm.
that. But I will tell you this, the amount of information that I learned from Simone and you, if you all don't do anything else, like I'll be honest, like you can have your astrology charts read and you can do all that those fun things. But if you want real, true transformation and a deep core understanding of who you are and what you're here to do in this earth, fucking Ankara Rose is the one to go to for her success codex. Like it's so pretty for one, but
Mhm.
really like the combination of your planets and your like elements and your gene keys and all that shit, just the combination of it is the power behind it. We need to know first who we are in order to really show up in the world. And we can figure that out through trial and error, or we can just work with people like you to really close that gap and get there sooner.
Mm.
It's like, why waste all this time trying to figure it out on your own?
Right.
I
If
would
there are
never,
tools, and I
yeah,
totally agree, right? Like we can, right? None of these things like you can figure out who you are without human design and astrology and the success. Of course you can. But I will say for entrepreneurs, like we're here to do big things. And the more time we're spending not connected to ourselves, unclear about who we are, we're wasting precious time where we get to serve and also we get to make money through serving. So, how about the
exactly.
shortcut? Like the shortcut makes sense.
Right?
Just
I
common sense to
agree.
me.
And it's tools like that that get people into action and implementing the strategies that they already know.
Yeah.
It's not learning more strategy, it's learning how you operate. Like, I think that is such a precious key to be able to unlock your success. Like, you have to really get in there and know that.
It's
Now,
really one of, I'll just say it's like
yeah.
a foundational pillar with the Success Codex. And we've talked about this, like people's desire to collect information. So the Success Codex works on three levels, like information, learning about yourself. That's just the first part. The second part is application, right? It's
Mm,
information, application, and then integration. That's how we roll there because I don't care if you know who you are based on your success codex. I care that you are putting it into action and living it. So you get to see and you get to really develop your own relationship with these keywords and these parts of yourself so you can be, I'd like really tying it back to the very beginning. We were talking about boundaries. We were talking about our leadership, right? We lead best when we are being our true selves. But just like you said, we have to know who that is.
I
We have
love
to know
it.
who we are.
I know that it's been a crazy couple weeks, but I'm going to be scheduling a one-on-one session with you. So, if anyone's interested in me doing that and recording it and sharing it with I have no problem sharing stuff. So you
Ooh.
could see what it's like and what to expect from her readings or even getting into her. She does live programs every once in a while and getting into those. So yeah, I'm so excited to do it now that things are beginning to calm back down in my life. Who didn't feel that energy last week? But we're not going to go there because we are running over time, and I like to really uh, honor it. I didn't realize that we'd gone over so much, but so this episode was a little all over the place, but expect that often because this is the way we're going to roll in our conversations. It's nice to have some options on what we can talk about, but Ankara Rose and I really tend to flow better when we're talking personal and just being who we are.
Yeah,
Don't you think?
I totally agree.
Okay. So everyone, I'm going to link in the show notes on Cara Rose's site or anything that she wants to share. Just know that we're going to be doing a lot more podcasts together and we're going to schedule them out and it's going to be really joyful. I'm so excited to do more of these. I'll still do some solos every once in a while, but they're not as fun. Everyone, have a great week.
Bye.